As the Electricity Amendment Bill was introduced in Lok Sabha, the floor erupted into ruckus as the bill aims to reject the power sector by boosting competition and lower debts. A countrywide protest by engineers threatened to cut off the power supply in the entire country. Incessant power cuts, tripping power lines, mounting of dues to the power companies are something common that makes headlines from the country's power sector ridden in crisis. India went through one of its worst ever power crises in April this year. Some states were experiencing power cuts as long as 16 hours, bringing normal life to a standstill. Poor planning, faulty economics, and lack of coordination among the various stakeholders in the power sector are pushing the country into an unending vortex of power woes. Is a massive overhaul necessary to rescue the sector from an impending catastrophe? Let's see. Speaking at Ujjwal Bharat Power at 2047 in July this year, PM Modi has urged states to pay off their debts owed to the power companies, amounting to 2.5 trillion rupees. But why are the states often buried in a pile of debt? To understand that, let's look at how the power industry is operating. On the front are the power generation companies called GenCos, which generate power by tapping into abundance of nature. Then we have the transmission companies, the institutions responsible for transferring the electricity from the power stations to the states far and wide. Finally, we have the power distributors, the DISCOMs, the companies responsible for bringing electricity to your home. When the power generated makes its way to the DISCOMs, it is then sold to the end consumer. But here is the caveat. Much of the energy is lost in the leakage for various factors. It could be the age-old power infra, poor maintenance of the grid, or even the energy theft in the bylanes of your neighborhood. This way, the DISCOMs could not monetize all the power forever lost in the void. But even if they bill the end customer, the low realization of dues again throws it back to the debt cycle. But why are the DISCOMs not able to plug the leakages and strengthen the payment security mechanisms? As we see, most DISCOMs are owned and operated by the state governments, and for them, free electricity is often used as a sweetener in the elections. On top of that, government's attitude of promise now, pay later is further crippling the sector. The assurance from the state governments to compensate for their subsidy commitments is never met, as their finances are mostly in a state of shambles. Power freebies in Tamil Nadu have metastasized to an extent that it is now more costly than the food subsidy offered by the state government. So, they simply defer their payments and starve DISCOMs of the much needed funds. According to Prapti, Centre's Power Ministry tracking the dues owed to DISCOMs to GenCos, the states Telangana, Meghalaya and Jammu and Kashmir haven't paid their dues for more than a year. PM Modi has expressed his anguish of serious repercussions for the country in near future. The cycle of deferring payments, heavy borrowing will render the institutions to fail, creating an energy crisis of an unprecedented scale. And it is not like nobody noticed this bit. So what did the government do to tackle this problem? The central government saw this coming a long time ago. In 2015, they launched the Uday scheme in a bid to elevate some of industry's major concerns. However, the dues of DISCOMs across the country have risen since its inception. In 2014-15, power DISCOMs owed about 4 lakh crore and is estimated to have reached 6 lakh crore in 2022. The government pretty much understands that there is no point helping DISCOMs manage their debt burden if they keep faltering in the future, only to service the debt today to borrow back again tomorrow. So, this brings us back to the drawing room to address the systemic issues plaguing the industry. And here's how the government wants to go about things. The government has earmarked 3 lakh crore package for the distribution sector reforms and upgrading the last mile infrastructure. Now, let's get back to the basics. The hope is to solve the leakages by spending on installing prepaid smart meters, feeder separations, upgrading the power transmission architecture, etc. By rationalizing subsidies, modernization and digitalization of the grid may pave way for the efficient bill collections, scuttle the scourge of power theft, and even boost the revenue of debt-stressed discoms. Key proposals in the bill include mandating regulators to set tariffs based on market costs and defining payment procedures and deadlines. Discoms can also use other power distribution licensees network and give more power to the regulators. Leveling the field for the competition by delicensing the distribution of power, companies can now distribute and compete with each other anywhere. The consumers are now free to choose their power supplier just the way they do with the telecom operators now. At first, it may seem counterintuitive pitting private players against the discoms whom the government wants to support. But if these institutions falter due to any reasons, the consumers are not left with any alternatives. Further, the government has in the past floated investment trusts to monetize the assets by raising funds and fund the new projects unlocking more value. In its latest measures to control the mounting power dues, the central government has barred 13 states from buying or selling electricity on power exchanges until they clear their current bills from the power plants. These states, which include Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan, together owe about 5,100 crores in current dues to power generators. The power distribution utilities have also accumulated dues of over 1 lakh crore which are being settled down through a bailout plan. As the tabling of the Electricity Amendment Bill saw stiff opposition from a group of parties citing the reasons as violation of federal principles or being anti-farmers, the draft bill has been referred to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Energy for further examination. At last, the central government has tried to pull out the sinking discoms but in vain. Perhaps it now has to go to the roots to revive a sector that is set to become more important for a role in accelerating the country's progress in the coming years.
Please subscribe to Nationalist Hub English channel for more interesting videos and don't forget to like and share this video. Nationalist Hub, it's a news revolution.